Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining today as the third day of the Changemaker Inclusion Summer Program. I'm so excited to be hosting another day of this program. Today's agenda will be learning the design process and UX vision, and then we're going to break into our small groups and get started on our brainstorming. This is the first important step in your advocacy work and your projects, and I can't wait to see what you all come up with. Once again, I would love to give a shout out to all of our amazing camp coordinators who are making this program possible for you guys and making it as enjoyable as it can be. For those of you who weren't there on day one, we sent follow-up emails to provide your phone number for the group chats. Most of you have already been added, and if you haven't been added and you sent your phone number, please message me privately later on. Aside from that, I'm so excited to get you all started on your projects, and I hope you all are just as excited to be real change makers. So today is the day that we also begin in our evaluation for awards. The awards mentioned yesterday, it's the same awards, but today is the day we're going to make sure that we monitor the progress. Please remember to be respectful and kind and willing to listen to other people's ideas. Any rude behavior will not be tolerated. Lastly, please email our organization privately if you have any complaints about group members that you wish to report anonymously. So now that all the technicalities are out of the way, I am once again joined by Oscar and Arnie to help present all the new lessons about the design process and UX visions, which your mentors have been trained in and will guide you with. I'm going to hand it off to Arnie to begin with UX vision.
Hi everyone. So again, my name is Arnie and I'm excited to be here once again. So you all will be using UX Vision to design your projects. Once again, all of our mentors are well versed in UX Vision and will help guide you through. Before opening up an advocacy project or even creating a single step, we explore and determine the core business and user goals of the product. What are we setting out to accomplish with the product we're designing? Who is it going to benefit and how? How can we design the best experience possible for users? These are the questions we have to ask ourselves on every project from day one. This is what the UX Vision Framework tackles. By definition, a UX vision is an aspirational, future state view of an experience people will have with a product, service, team, or organization. UX vision is usually used on companies and products. However, this is advocacy, so instead of a user POV, we want you to look in the POV of a neurodiverse individual. A UX vision should be part of the overall roadmap your company follows. What type of user experience do you want your customers or users to have? How will it support them in achieving their goals? How will it help your company to achieve its goals and build your brand? You should have clear answers to all of these questions that are well known to your entire team. Instead of a product teams just making UX design decisions on the fly, you should first deliberately lay the groundwork for all design decisions by finding your UX vision. The purpose of a UX vision or strategy is also its primary benefit. A human-centered approach or roadmap to a product or service that an entire enterprise, including marketing, development, sales, and executives, can rally around and work to achieve. Thus, in theory, having a UX vision ensures that all customer or user touchpoints positively reinforce that brand and the customer or user experience, resulting in a more cohesive and coherent product and customer relationship. A UX vision is the articulation of what a company expects to do to make money, from the perspective of the people they expect to use, experience, or purchase it. Today, you all will be going through and brainstorming whether your service or product will cost money, if it will be free, how you will deploy, what you are creating, and other technicalities. Your UX vision provides a way of gaining collective agreement about strategic direction, so all of the members of a product team, collectively or independently, can make decisions that are consistent with that overall direction. The UX vision can also serve as an elevator pitch and acts as a beacon, providing guidance to other people about where you and your team are headed. So, achieving anything meaningful requires that you have clearly articulated goals. Defining your UX vision articulates your goals for a business unit or a project, enabling a common understanding of those goals and unifying your team in striving to achieve them. By defining your UX vision, you set a standard by which you can evaluate every decision you make along the way and judge whether it supports, enhances, or detracts from that vision. As a project progresses, it is essential to maintain the coherence of your UX vision. UX vision has a three-step design process, as shown on the screen: gather, envision, and plan.
Awesome. So now I'm going to hand it off to Oscar, who's going to talk through what each of these three stages look like.
Thank you so much. Um, so now let's go through examples of each step of the UX vision. So we start off with step one, or stage one, which is gather. You collect and distill any research knowledge that already exists and consolidate neurodiverse people's views already in place. If no existing research exists, it's a good time to conduct some. Depending on the knowledge already available, several methods can build current state understanding. Neurodiversity interviews is the first, and this allows the team to understand the current perception of any processes, successes, and obstacles from various external perspectives. In addition, they help engage the affected audience in the process, therefore building buy-in for the vision once it has been created. This means that you will make sure you know what neurodiverse individuals go through by getting their opinions and knowledge. The next step would be usability testing. If no user research exists, even a small study will provide great insights about UX issues and that need to be optimized in a future state version. This would mean consulting neurodiverse family and friends through your project and asking for their input. And then third would be competitive analysis. This method helps the team identify competitive strengths and weaknesses of the current experience so that strong elements of competitor products can be built into the future state vision. This means to get to know your team and figure out each other's strengths. Use these strengths to have people do what they are best at in your project. And we move on to stage two, which is envision. The goal here is to co-create a shared research-backed vision. The second stage is about defining what the team or product should provide in comparison to what it currently provides. This step is typically a collaborative workshop session where key stakeholders and team members align on a shared future state vision that they create together. There are three steps in this workshop. First is share and review existing research. Second is brainstorm and prioritize future state attributes. And third is to craft a vision statement. After reviewing the current state, ask the team to envision how the ideal future state differs from the current state. To constrain the team's ideation, provide a focused question such as, where do you want to be in 5 years? What does it look like when we are providing our full value? Or what does the ideal experience look like? The workshop slide below shows a focused prompt to describe the ideal state in 5 years, providing a reasonable yet aspirational time constraint, 2 to 5 years, that enables the team to be creative during ideation, while still remaining somewhat grounded in reality. Finally, the group uses the top attributes as inputs to create potential vision statements, which leads us into stage 3, planning. The goal here is identify activities and resources required to realize the vision. At this point in the process, the team has a solid understanding of the current state, as well as a documented vision statement describing the ideal future state. This stage is about closing the gap between those two states. Collaborative methods are used to identify resources and activities required to bring the vision to life, and then prioritize and roadmap those items into an action plan. Here, lead a group brainstorm by asking the team, in order to make this vision a reality, what do we need to create or provide? To provide structure to the brainstorming process, you can use requisite roundup, which involves having team members think about what would be needed within predetermined categories such as processes, which include workflow, planning, communication, meetings, and as well as people, which includes roles, headcount, supporters, skills, buy-in, and even tools and tech, which includes systems, software, repositories, automation, and last, governance, which includes standards, policies, and prioritization.
So in conclusion for UX vision, we're going to be following these 3 guidelines to ensure the vision is as strong as possible. The first is to ground it in research, gather and share existing research, or if none exists, conduct research from like family members and friends in order to provide a foundation for understanding of the current state and an inspiration for the future state in form of users' needs and desires. Is very important to conduct your own research for evidence. The next thing is to be inclusive, and this means to invite others into the process. Use collaborative methods to increase buy-in and ownership and consider a wide set of opinions and insights. The last step is to share it out. Communicate the vision to others with engaging artifacts that capture the ideal state and the priorities identified to realize the vision. All right, so next we're going to move on to the design process. Once again, you're going to be you will use steps from these 2 processes that will best correlate and benefit your individual project. So now I'm going to get into the design process. Design thinking is a methodology which provides a solution-based approach to solving problems. It is extremely useful when used to tackle complex problems that are ill-defined or unknown, because it serves to understand the human needs involved, reframe the problem in human-centric ways, create numerous ideas in brainstorming sessions, and adopt a hands-on approach to prototyping and testing. Learning about the 6 stages of the design thinking will empower you and allow you to apply the methodology in your own work and solve complex problems that occur in our companies, our countries, and across the world. The design process is a way of figuring out what you need to do and then doing it. Along the way, you might solve one or more problems, try to achieve the goal, and/or create something specific. The first critical step in understanding the design process is that it's not about working the right way or the wrong way. The design process is a method that you will use to be more creative, productive, and accurate. The process should conform to you rather than the other way around. It's not a rigid list of steps to follow, but a tool you can use to work better. The goal of this guide is to teach you how to use the design process to tackle real-world scenarios.
Okay, so the design process consists of 6 steps. The first step is define the problem. You can't find a solution until you have a clear idea of what the problem is. The second step is to collect information. You should collect sketches, take photographs, and gather data to start giving you inspiration. The third step is brainstorm and analyze ideas. Begin to sketch, make, and study so you can start to understand how all the data and information you've collected may impact your design. The fourth step is develop solutions. Take your preliminary ideas and form multiple small-scale design solutions. The fifth step is to gather feedback. Present your ideas to as many people as possible, friends, teachers, professionals, and any others you trust to give insightful comments. Sixth step, improve. Reflect on all of your feedback and decide if or to what extent it should be incorporated. It is often helpful to take solutions back through the design process to refine and clarify them. So why is the design process important? Well, firstly, it sets clear expectations. When you share what the design process looks like with your client, it allows you to establish realistic project deliverables and deadlines together. Your client will know exactly what to expect from you and when to expect it, eliminating needless miscommunication later. Secondly, it puts clients at ease. Many clients begin working with us unaware of everything it takes to transform a good idea into a great final product. With a clear and concise design process in place, you can show your client exactly where their money is going during the design phase of their project. And lastly, it decreases risk of failure. All aspects of a product's design need consideration, and a good design process accounts for everything. Sure, You can create a great looking product with visual design alone, but if there's no thought behind its usability or no research behind it, you increase the risk that your product will fail.
So now I'm going to use a hypothetical 10 steps of how you could use the design process. First is to identify an advocacy challenge or opportunity, which most of you have been provided with your projects. The next is to determine the key audiences. Some of you have been provided with a specific audience, such as dyslexic children or autistic individuals. However, for those of you who haven't, please narrow down your audience and determine who would be best to target. The next step would be to find out what those audiences currently know or perceive. And this is where it becomes important to conduct your research, as earlier mentioned. The next step is to determine how each audience receives its information. This will happen in today's brainstorming session, in which you determine how you're going to deploy your product or your service. The next step would be to establish measurable objectives for each audience. And this would be essentially you and your peers in your brainstorming sessions today, delegating tasks amongst each other of how to make sure that this hits the affected audience. The next step would be to define message points for each audience. This is to make sure that you are considerate in your words and your terms to describe other individuals, and make sure that your message gets across in a respectful and appropriate manner. The next step would be to determine the communication activities to deliver those messages. Once again, this would be your deployment platform. Next, decide what resources are necessary to complete each activity. This is what you and your mentors will be discussing today to figure out how to deploy each activity in a proper and thought out way. The second to last step is to establish a timeline and responsible party for each activity. Once again, this would mean delegating tasks amongst each other and making sure that you have a way to continue this project even after you are past the guidance of our nonprofit. The last step is to evaluate whether you've reached your objectives. Simply crossing off each checkbox will not be enough, but rather you have to make sure that you are properly considering your audience and their needs. If everything doesn't move smoothly on your first go with the design process or UX vision, that is fine. When you see a design process in action, you'll notice that it is rarely a smooth succession of steps that the diagram implies. The steps often overlap and blur, and their order is sometimes reversed. It's a creative and fluid way of working that has to be adapted to each individual situation. Today, you're going to be brainstorming, and here are some things to consider. You already have your projects in your groups, so now the fun part is going to begin, which is just the brainstorming. Brainstorming sessions use various techniques and exercises to generate ideas. One effective method is to start by having participants take time as individuals to brainstorm ideas. This step can be as simple as having everyone write down a list of ideas on a piece of paper. The next would be to explain to participants that they have the freedom to write anything down they believe represents a potential solution, no matter how impossible or strange it may seem. At this point, feasibility does not play a large role because you can develop ways to make these ideas more feasible during group discussion phases. Next would be to set rules for this discussion, stating that participants cannot criticize or judge others' ideas. There are various techniques for generating and developing ideas, but make sure that whatever you choose provides sharing opportunities for everyone to share. Try to keep the conversation focused on one idea at a time, allowing participants to discuss what they like about the idea and build onto it to make it even better or more feasible. Lastly, how you will share and collaborate on ideas will vary on the brainstorming exercises or techniques you and your mentors use. You may discuss each idea verbally and write it down on a list of ideas on a whiteboard. Some exercises have individuals write their idea on a piece of paper and then move on to the next person to have them build upon it. Research the different techniques and incorporate ones that you can believe can help spur creativity and active participation amongst your team. It's really important that you use the document provided in your Google Drives, which is there for all of you guys who are participating in the projects. There is a brainstorming guide in there. Feel free to use it to the best of your abilities and use your mentor's guidance and their questions. Now we're going to get started with breakout rooms. But